Okay, Rabbi say, Shalom Aleichem. So you know it's Asara b'Tevis. Asara b'Tevis. The Rambam says in Hilchis Tiny Yois Perik Hey Halacha Hey, V'nohagu Kol Yisrael B'zmanim Elu V'hisanois B'Yud Gimel Ba'Adar. We fast on the 13th day of Adar, etc. Yemchal Yud Gimel Ba'Adar Liyois B'Shabbos. If Tainis Esther falls out on Shabbos, Makdimin, we fast the day before, etc. Avol Echod Me Arba Yemei Hatzoymois. One of the other four fasts, meaning Asar B'Tevis, Shivasa B'Tamaz, Tisha B'Av, and Tzom Gedalia. Echod Me Arba Yemei Hatzoymois Shechal B'Shabbos Doichin Oisoi LaAchar HaShabbos. It's postponed to after Shabbos. Only Tainis Esther we fast before. All the other tzaymos are postponed to the day after. Chali is be'erev Shabbos, it's not a be'erev Shabbos. If it falls out on Friday, we fast on Friday. But if it falls out on Shabbos, we fast on Sunday. Now, this halacha, that if it falls out on Shabbos, we don't fast on Shabbos, but we fast the day after. The source of this halacha is in the Mishnah Megillah Daf Hey. But the Mishnah Megillah Daf Hey is talking about Tisha B'Av only. It doesn't mention the other fasts. But it would seem poshit that if it's so by Tisha B'Av, which is the most chomur of the tiny yois, that we don't fast on Shabbos. It's obviously the same in the other tzoymos that we don't fast on Shabbos and we postpone it after Shabbos. And that's what the Rambam is saying, that all the tzoymos are postponed to after Shabbos if they fall out on Shabbos. And so it says in Rashi on the Mishnah Megillah, when the Mishnah says that if it's Chali is b'Shabbos, we push it off to after Shabbos, Rashi says, V'hu adin l'shiva'asa b'tamuz u'la'asar b'tevis. So Tisha B'Av, it's not only Tisha B'Av that we push off, but also the other tzoymos. But in the Abudraham, in the Seder Tfilas HaTainiyos, he writes as follows: V'chiluk yesh beineihem. There's a difference between these fast days. Sha'arba hatzoymos hein nitchim l'fomim. 4 of these fasts are sometimes pushed off k'shecholu b'Shabbos, when they fall out of Shabbos. Chutz me'asar b'tevis. Besides for asar b'tevis. She'einoi chal la'olam b'Shabbos. It never falls out on Shabbos. Thank you. Avol hu chalafamim b'yom shishi. Sometimes it falls out on Friday. U'misanim b'yom, and you fast on Friday. V'afilu hoyachal b'Shabbos. Now he drops a dramatic bombshell. V'afilu hoyachal b'Shabbos. Theoretically, even if it would fall out on Shabbos, it's strange why he talks this out, because it doesn't fall out on Shabbos. But he says, v'afilu hoyachal b'Shabbos, even if Asara b'Tevis would fall out on Shabbos, Loi hoyu yecholim l'tchoisei l'yoyim acher. We couldn't push it off to a different day. Mipnei shenemar boy, because about Asara b'Tevis it says in Yecheskel Kapitel Chav Daled Pasuk Beis be'etzem hayoyim hazeh k'moi b'yom Kippur. The Navi uses the same expression be'etzem hayoyim hazeh as the Pasuk uses with regards to Yom Kippur, and therefore it can't be pushed off. V'sharat tzaymois einam cholim la'olam b'yom shishi, etc. So the Abudraham says that if it would happen that Asara b'Tevis would fall out on Shabbos, it couldn't be nitchel yom acher because it says be'etzem hayom hazeh. The Beis Yosef in Siman Tov Kuf Nun says about this, v'lo yodati minayin lo zeh. I don't know where he knows this from. Meaning to say, we don't find this drasha anywhere in Chazal that they should say that where it says be'etzem hayoyim hazeh, it can't be pushed off. It's true that by Yom Kippur it says in the Torah be'etzem hayoyim hazeh, and it's not pushed off, but it's not because it says be'etzem hayoyim hazeh, it's partially because Yom Kippur is a doiraisa, sheyesh by chorus. So Avades can be pushed off, right? It's like a Shabbos, because the Issa Achilu Ushti of Yom Kippur is a Dei. So the Chiyuv of Einik Shabbos which according to most Rishonim is not a Doiraisa, it's just a Chil of Divrei Kabbalah, it comes from the Nevi'im, can't be a reason to push off Yom Kippur. It's not because it says Be'etzem HaYom Hazeh by Yom Kippur. It's because Yom Kippur is a Koros Doiraisa, and the fast and the mitzvah of Einik Shabbos is only Divrei Kabbalah. So Avada, Yom Kippur you have to fast if it falls out on Shabbos. Not because it says Be'etzem HaYom Hazeh. So what is the Abu Draham saying? That since it says Be'etzem HaYom Hazeh like it says by Yom Kippur, therefore Asara B'Tevis, if it will fall on Shabbos, he wouldn't be able to push it off. He must be saying that he's making a Gzeira Shava. That since it says Be'etzem HaYom Hazeh by Yom Kippur, and Yom Kippur is not Nitche, so also Asara B'Tevis that says Be'etzem HaYom Hazeh is not Nitche. But Gzeira Shavas, the Gemara says, Ein Adam Don Gzeira Shava Mi'atzmai. Gzeira Shava has to be the Kabbalah. You can't make up a Gzeira Shava. This is a Gzeira Shava that doesn't appear anywhere in Chazal. So how would the Abu Draham invent a Gzeira Shava? Be'etzem HaYom Hazeh, that Asara B'Tevis is not Nitche, just like Yom Kippur is not Nitche. So we need to explain what's going on over here. You hear what I'm saying? Okay. So the Iker Zach, Reb Josh, I acknowledge your presence. Okay. So the Iker Zach that the four tzoymos, the 4 fast days, are not Doiche Shabbos, right? If it falls out, Shivas B'Tamas falls out on Shabbos, you don't fast on Shabbos. So the Minchas Chinuch in Mitzvah Shin Aleph asks that he doesn't understand why. He says the fasts are midivrei Kabbalah, it's midivrei Nevi'im. They all are written in Zechariah, as Tzom HaRaviv, as Tzom HaChamishi, etc. And and the Mela he says, and Einik Shabbos is only midivrei Kabbalah, as the Rambam says in the beginning of Perek Lamed Milchas Shabbos. So he asks, so who told us that Einik Shabbos is stronger than the Chiyuv of the Tzoymas? They're both Divrei Kabbalah. Who says that Shabbos should override the fast? Maybe the fast should override the Shabbos. So the Minchas Chinuch says that this proves that what? This proves the point that he made, that the Chiyuv midivrei Kabbalah to fast is only to fast in the 4th month or in the 5th month, meaning in Chodesh Tammuz, in Chodesh Av, but in the Divrei Kabbalah doesn't have a specific date within the month. This is a chiddush of the Minchas Chinuch. He says that if you look at the pasuk, it says Tzom HaRavi, Tzom HaChamishi, the fast of the 4th, the fast of the 5th, meaning the 4th month, the 5th month. The Chiyuv Midivrei Kabbalah is to fast a day during that month. It doesn't have a particular day. And he says like this, I'll bring you very straightforward rayas. Be'ez Hashem. Dehine b'Rosh Hashanah, Daf Yud Ches, Pligi, Reb Akiva v'Reb Shimon. Reb Akiva says that the Tzom HaAsiri, which is Asara B'Tevis, the 10th month, Sheboi Samach Melech Bovel, Reb Shimon Bar Yochai is Chamisha B'Tevis. Reb Shimon Bar Yochai says that the right day to fast in Tevis is not Asara B'Tevis, it's Chamisha B'Tevis. Because that's the day Shebo'o Shmua Lagoyla Shehuksa Ha'ir. He says the day to fast is not Asara B'Tevis, but Chamisha B'Tevis. Frag them and Chizkenach the Kosher. How could there be such a machlokes tanoim? The Heim Hoyu Teikif La'achar HaChorban Kiyodua. They were right after the Chorban Bayis Sheni. Well, my plea, how could they have a machlokes about this? Puk Chazi, go out and see my Amitvar, what people are doing. What were they doing during the second temple? The Oz Hoya Sasim V'Simcha. During the Bayis Sheni, the Yemei HaTzoymis was Sasim V'Simcha. The Eizeh Yoim HaYoysim. Which day were they doing Sasim V'Simcha? Uva Bayis Sheni, Hoyu Beis Shammai, Beis Hillel, V'Yesem Mekabli HaTorah. The Heich Shochach U'Adover. How could it be that immediately after the Churban Bayis Sheni, they already didn't know if it's the 5th of Tevis or the 10th of Tevis? The Gam Shom of word the Betisha Betamas Hufka Ha'ir. That in Bayis Sheni, the city was the Choymoy Sa'ir were breached on the 9th of Tammuz. Kimavur B'Yirmiyah in the Bayis Rishon. Kimavur B'Yirmiyah Nun Beis. Ve'ech Mesanim B'Yud Zayin B'Tammuz. The Gemara asks. U'metaretz Rav the Bayis Sheni Nechrav B'Yud Zayin. U'Bayis Sheni Chamira. To us, Bayis Sheni is more important, so to speak. And therefore, we fast on the 17th and not on the 9th. Utmiya Gedoyla. Heich Yecholim Onu La'akar Divrei Kabbalah Shu Ketorah. There was a fast, Divrei Kabbalah, on the 9th of Tammuz. How did we undo that fast? If we want, we should fast also on the 17th, he says. If it's too hard, it's too hard, so don't make another fast day. But how could you undo the fast, Divrei Kabbalah, on the 9th? So he says, and another thing, Rabbi Yochanan says in Tainis, Daf Chavtes, if I would have been in the time of the Churban, I would have instituted the Tainis on the 10th day of, because most of the bayis burned on the 10th. It only began to burn on the 9th. So he says, what do you mean? He says, Ve'ech ilu hoya shom hoya kaveh basiri v'chibidi deital yivnolsa. It's up to him when to make the fast. Halahu medivrei Kabbalah. The pasuk already says that you have to fast. I mean, who are you to say you would have made it on the 10th? See, he says, this proves my point. The Divrei Kabbalah is just to fast in that month. The Divrei Kabbalah didn't say which day. We could fast any day of the month that we want. He says that during the Bayis Sheni, when the fast days were Sasum v'Simcha, every community, or maybe every individual, celebrated on a day during the 4th month or the 5th month, any day he chose, or any day the Tzibur chose. Afterwards, when the second Churban happened, they wanted to make one day for everyone. And Rabbi Yochanan says that in Av I would make it on the 10th day. It was really all up to them, because the Divrei Kabbalah is only mechayiv a day during the month, but not which day. Yeah, so this is it's tremendous chiddush of the Mitzvah Chinuch. It sounds like really out of the box, but we now know that in the Ritzvah, which he didn't have, the Ritzvah in Rosh Hashanah actually says this mufurish. The Ritzvah in Rosh Hashanah. So Mamela, based on this, the Minchas Chinuch answers this question: why are the tzoymois of Divrei Kabbalah not Doicha Shabbos? They're both Divrei Kabbalah. Teretz is, if it falls out of Shabbos, you can't fast, because the fast you can do any day of the month. And so Mamela, it's not Doicha Shabbos. That's what the Minchas Chinuch says. So based on this, we can say that when the Abudraham says that Asara b'Tevis, if it would fall out on Shabbos, would not be pushed off, because it says Be'etzem HaYom Hazeh. He doesn't mean to say that the Be'etzem HaYom Hazeh tells me that it overrides Shabbos, because Yom Kippur says Be'etzem HaYom Hazeh and it overrides Shabbos, and I'm making a Gzeres Shaveh from Yom Kippur to Asara b'Tevis that it should override Shabbos. No. What he's saying is a very simple thing. Asara b'Tevis, it says Be'etzem HaYom Hazeh, so it's the Divrei Kabbalah is not to fast a day in Tevis. Asara b'Tevis is different than Shivasa b'Tammuz and Tisha B'Av and Tzom Gedalia. Asara b'Tevis has a particular day, mi Divrei Kabbalah, because it says Be'etzem HaYom Hazeh. Once it has a particular day in the month, then comes back the time of the Minchas Chinuch. That being that the fast is Divrei Kabbalah and Onik Shabbos is Divrei Kabbalah, the fast will override the Shabbos, and therefore, Asara B'Tevis, we would fast on Shabbos if it would fall out on Shabbos, because it says Be'etzem Hayom Hazeh, so it's connected with a particular day. It's connected with a particular day. Yeah, and the Emes says that there's a Kuntrus Chanukah or Megillah from Reb Chaim Aaron Turch in the Talmud of the Briskerov, where he writes as follows. He writes B'tzorech Biur about this Abu Draham. B'tzorech Biur, my Gzeir Shava Shayach Midivrei Kabbalah LaTorah. We don't find any Gzeir Shavas from Nevi'im to the Chamisha from Shetorah. V'oy v'chi Adam don Gzeir Shava mi'atzmai. So how did the Abu Draham make this Gzeir Shava? Ubier Moron Zechet Tzadik Lavrocha, the Brisker Rov, said the whole tiny is like hukfu udafka al yoim. Ki im tzayim aravi v'tzayim achamishi u'shim hachi nitchin. Aval basor b'tevis diksiv be'etzem hayoim hazeh im kein ari ataynis hukva l'yoim ha'asiri b'tevis dafke im kein doichaf l'shabbos. Zeu shekosov k'mo yoim ha'kipurim d'shayich l'yoim zeh hayoim hu yoim ataynis. Now, he doesn't really explain B'chlal, why does it help that the day was chosen in the Divrei Kabbalah? Why does it override the Shabbos? He doesn't reference the Minchas Chinuch B'chlal, but obviously this is part of this conversation, that based on the Minchas Chinuch's taina, that the Tzayim is the Divrei Kabbalah, Shabbos is the Divrei Kabbalah, the Tzayim should be Doicha the Shabbos, therefore, and the only reason that it's not Doicha the Shabbos is because the Tzayim could be done any day of the month. So here, where it has a particular date, mi divrei Kabbalah, because it says Be'etzem Hayom Hazeh, the fast is doiche the Shabbos. But the truth is that we really need to understand why is it so partial to the Minchas Chinuch that the divrei Kabbalah of the Tzoymois would override the divrei Kabbalah of Einik Shabbos. L'chorah, they're equal. They're both divrei Kabbalah. So who says that the fast is stronger than the Shabbos? So probably we have to say that they are equal. But the Minchas Chinuch holds that since they're equal, so sheval tasodif. In other words, you shouldn't be over on the fast, bekum v'asei, in order to be mekayim the Einik Shabbos, which is not more chamor. The Einik Shabbos is equally chamor as the Tzayim. Therefore, when you have a conflict between the Shabbos and the fast, you should not do anything, which is sheva al taseh. Therefore, the Minchas Chinuch understands that you should be fasting on Shabbos if both are divrei Kabbalah, and therefore he said what he said. But after all this, the Minchas Chinuch is very shver, because it's mafurish in the sugya in Rosh Hashanah that only in a time that there's Gzeiras Malchus, even in a time where there's Ein Sholoi, and the Beis HaMikdash is Chorev, if there's no active Gzeiras Malchus, we say that Rotzu Misanin, Rotzu Ein Misanin. The Divrei Kabbalah is only in a time of Gzeiras Malchus. In our time, which is considered a time of Ein Sholem ve'ein Shmad, there's no chiyuv with Divrei Kabbalah to fast. So why would the Minchas Chinuch hold that we should be fasting on Shabbos? Today the fast is not Divrei Kabbalah. But be'emes, the status of the fasts b'zman hazeh is not so clear. In the Tur, in Siman Tov Kuf Nun, he writes, "V'ha'idne delekesh sholem v'lekesh shmad." Today is considered a time that there's no peace, but there's no shmad. Rotzu misanin, rotzu ein misan. Pirush, delekesh sholem, it's considered a time of no peace. Why? Shehabayis chorev, because the bayis is chorev. V'lekesh shmad b'mokum yedua b'Yisrael. There's no active Gzeres Malchus anywhere in the Jewish world that is a Gzeres Shmad. So Rotzu Roiv Yisrael v'Yeskimu Aleim Sheloi Le'Yisanis Ein Misanis. If most of Klal Yisrael decides to undo the fast, they don't have to fast. Rotzu Roiv Tzibur Misanim. V'ha'idna, says the Torah, Rotzu, most of Klal Yisrael wanted to uphold these fast days. V'nohadu, and they are noyek to fast. Lefichach asur lifroitz geder. Therefore, an individual that doesn't want to fast is not allowed to be poireitz geder. V'kolshkim b'doris halol, sheba'avoy yoseinu yesh shmad ve'ein sholem. Even more so in our times, writes the Torah, that there is shmad and there's no sholem. Hilkoch hakol chayovim lesanis midivri kabbalah mitzakon sanavim. So it sounds from the Torah that at the end of the day he's saying that our time is a time of yesh shmad, and the divrei kabbalah is mechayev the tainus in our times. And according to this, the Minchas Chinuch is right that we should be fasting on Shabbos by all the fasts, and the only way to get out of that is by saying that the fast is not on a particular day. But if you look in the Hemshech of the Torah says, Umihu, however, Kulhu Mutorim Berechitzu B'Siche. We're not noyig all the Inuyim on the fast days, besides for Tisha B'Av. The Ein Tzorich Lahafsik Bohem Ba'oid Yoim. You don't have to start fasting for the night also. Chutz Mi Tisha B'Av B'Av. Now, the beginning and the end of this Torah comes from the Ramban in the Torah Sodom, where he writes, B'zeh Loshen, V'achshav kvar rotzu v'noagu le'sanois v'kiblu aleim lefichov osur liyochid lifreitz gidron v'kol shekein b'doros halol sheharei ba'avoynoseinu rabu tzorois Yisrael ve'ein sholom hilko chayovin hakoil lehisanois midivrei kabbalah v'takonos hanavim u'mistabre the kulu arba tzoyim tainis tziburaim v'navim gozru oisam v'chol chumrei tainis aleim mafsikim miboyjon. So at this point, the Ramban is saying that all the tzoymos are aser in all the inuyim, and that you have to start fasting at night. However, in these days, given the bisman the leket tzore betelin, it's only based on the Ratzu, and the Ratzu wasn't to keep all these Inuyim. Avomi Koret HaKonevadai Asurim. So the Ramban from the beginning to the end is contradicting himself. He starts off by saying that the Divrei Kabbalah is applicable B'zman Hazeh because it's a time of Shema. But then he says that really when there was the Divrei Kabbalah, it was also to eat at night, and it was also in all the Inuyim. And he says, but today it's not, because it's only based on the Ratzu. And the Ratzu wasn't to fast at night. And the Ratzu wasn't to keep all the Inuyim. So it's really very difficult to understand what he's saying. So in the Chidushei HaGoyos to the Torah, the name of the Maharlach, he says that it's obvious that the Ramban is not saying in the end of the day that Divrei Kabbalah applies to Zman Hazeh. It's clear that B'zman Hazeh it's not Divrei Kabbalah, and the Ramban actually said that Kolshkim B'zman Hazeh, that the Shmad, he didn't mean to say that it's really meets the criteria of B'zman Sheyesh Shmad, when there's a Chiyuv Tainis Midivrei Kabbalah. It's just that he's so in the end of the day he's saying that there's no Divrei Kabbalah. I'll tell you what he says. He says, "Va'afagav l'fi ma shekos Rabbeinu, k'ma shekos Ram b'shem Rabban shebedoros halolu yesh shmad chayovim l'sanis midivrei Kabbalah hoyo nira sheyu asurim b'chol hachumris b'kol smokim tzorich lem tzvir Rabbeinu d'lav shmad mamashu." It doesn't qualify for shmad mamash. Elokim sheyesh k'tzas shmad ro'ui linoi k'chumris shenoagu adoros shel faneinu. So we only refrain from eating and drinking and not from the other inuyim. And so says also the Bani. So I'm just saying that in the end of the day it comes out that the Torah agrees that there is no divrei Kabbalah that's mechayev the tainus b'zman hazeh. And Memela, the Minchas Chinuch that is asking that we should fast Shivas B'Tamas if it falls out on Shabbos, because it's divrei Kabbalah against divrei Kabbalah, is really not right, because it's not Divrei Kabbalah B'zman Hazeh. you have to say that he's really talking, it's a theoretical conversation that he's having. That we don't find that they ever fasted on Shivas B'Tammuz, even once upon a time when there was a Zman Shmat. But it's not applicable with Zman Hazeh. So Mamela, the question comes back, how could the Abu Draham say that if Asara B'Tevis would fall out on Shabbos, we would fast on Shabbos because of the Be'etzem Hayom Hazeh? The Abu Draham is talking about our times. Our times, it's not Divrei Kabbalah. So I'm saying, so everything we said, to use the Minchas Chinuch in order to explain the Abu Draham, doesn't really work because there is no Divrei Kabbalah B'Zman Hazeh, and therefore, what is he talking about? So what is the Abu Draham talking about? So, listen, I want to say something a little out of the box, that the Abu Draham writes like this, even if it would fall out on Shabbos, you couldn't push it off to another day. He doesn't mean to say that we would fast on Shabbos. Because the emes, our fast cannot be Doicha Shabbos. But because our fasts are not Midivrei Kabbalah even. So for sure they're not Doicha Shabbos. He just means to say that if it would happen that Asara B'Tevis would fall out on Shabbos, we wouldn't fast B'chlal. Because we wouldn't fast on Shabbos. But you can't push it off to another day because it's Be'etzem Hayom Hazeh. In other words, the Minchas Chinuch is right. The whole idea of pushing off the fast is only because the fast is in principle shaykh to the entire month. So you can push it off to a different day. But the tightness of Asara B'Tevis is not month related, it's day related. I mean, the tightness of Asara B'Tevis, Be'etzem Hayom Hazeh, is only for the day of Asara B'Tevis. If it would fall out on Shabbos, Lo hayinu yecholim l'tchoisei l'yoyim achir. He doesn't mean to say that we would fast on Shabbos. I thought we wouldn't fast on Shabbos, but we wouldn't fast on Sunday either. Because the tainus is only for Be'etzem Hayom Hazeh. That's what I'm saying that Abu Draham says. He never really said that you would fast on Shabbos.
Doesn't it shell to the Yom Kippur though? Yom Kippur?
Yeah, he's telling to the Yom Kippur that it says the word Be'etzem Hayom Hazeh and the tainus of Yom Kippur is only on Yom Kippur. But he doesn't mean to say that it's not, it would be Doicha Shabbos just like Yom Kippur is Doicha Shabbos, because he anyway can't mean to say that. Because the only way he could be making a tzushtel in the principle would be if we would say that on Yom Kippur you fast on Shabbos because of the words Be'etzem Hayom Hazeh, which is anyway not true. So, yeah. So whatever the Pirush HaDvarim would be, what are you saying?
Isn't he trying to say the Chumash HaDavar though? Isn't?
Oh, one second. What is he trying? Oh, listen, you asked me a very good question. I'm saying whatever the pshat of the Abu Draham is, Avada, we need to understand what does he want by saying that if it would fall out on Shabbos, it wouldn't be mitzvah. It can't fall out on Shabbos, as he himself says, right? So what's the message over here? I mean, if we would say like we said before, that according to the Abu Draham, if it would fall out on Shabbos, it would be Doicha Shabbos. So maybe we can understand that he's coming to say that there's a special chaymer in Asara B'Tevis. But really, that's impossible anyway, because you want to say that Asara B'Tevis is more chaymer than Tisha B'Av. I mean, it's not possible to say that Asara B'Tevis is more chaymer than Tisha B'Av. So Al Korchov, it's not bitzad the chumrah of Asara B'Tevis. Just because Asara B'Tevis is shaykh to the day of Asara and no other day. So what's so important about that message? Befrat, according to what I'm saying, that even according to the Abu Draham, you Avada wouldn't fast on Shabbos, it's just that it wouldn't be pushed off to another day. So Avada, we don't understand, what does he want? But you know, I want to suggest like this, the Minchas Chinuch over there has a conversation about, the Osid Lavoi, the fasts are going to be transformed into Sosoin B'Simcha. Right? Osid Lavoi. Another thing that's going to happen, Osid Lavoi, is that we're going to do away with the Luach, and we're going to go back to being Mekadosh, the Chodesh, Al Pi Hore'iyah. So, L'chore, in the Mekoimas HaRechoikim, where the Shluchei Bezdin will not be able to arrive, I mean, they didn't have in his time yet telephones. So the Shluchei Bezdin will not be able to arrive. So they're going to make 2 days Kodesh Misvei Kediyah. So in other words, the celebration of Shiva Asar B'Tammuz, La'asid Lavoi, in the Mekoim HaRechoikim, is going to be 2 days. But then he says, but based on what I said, says the Minchas Chinuch, that Midivrei Kabbalah, the the tzoymos are not shaykh to a particular day. It's just that they have to be done a day in the month, and the particular day is only a derabbanan. So, by the same token, the Yemei Sosayim v'Simcha of La'asid Lavai Midivrei Kabbalah will not be dafke in a Mesuyim Dikadei, and Klape the derabbanan that picked the day, right? We say Sveki derabbanan l'kula. So we won't do 2 days of celebration, because the particular day is only rabbinic. It's not Divrei Kabbalah, right? But now, so this is what he says. So now I'm saying, according to what the Abu Draham was machadish, that Asara b'Tevis is different, and with Divrei Kabbalah, it has to be on the 10th day in particular, right? It's not a month-related thing; it's a day. So the Asid Lavai will have to, in the Mekoyim Asara make 2 days of celebration for Asara b'Tevis. Yeah, because by Asara b'Tevis, what the Mechas said is not applicable. So there's an Afkamin Ladina from the Abu Draham that La'asid Lavai will have to celebrate 2 days of Asara b'Tevis. Okay, now we also need to understand, I mean, what's Taki the word that Asara b'Tevis is different than the other tzoymos. The other tzoymos are month related, and Asara b'Tevis is a day thing. And it can't be postponed. What's the meaning of that? Maybe we could say, you know, this day, why is it a fast day? This day, what happened was, as the pasuk says in Yecheskel, Somach Melech Bovel El Yerushalayim Be'etzem Hayom Hazeh, that he made a motzor around the choymos of Yerushalayim. He encircled Yerushalayim, as the Rambam says in the Chestanius, Sheboy Somach Melech Bovel Nebuchadnezzar Rosh Al Yerushalayim Vehivio B'motzor U'B'motzoik. So this is really the day of the Tchilas HaPeronis. This is where it all began. And you know, the beginning is the foundation of the Hemshech. And you know, Kol Haskolos Koshes. Because the Haskolah really opens the way to the entire Hemshech. As we say, Toiv Achris Davar, Mei Reishisai. So, in the Le'um Hazeh, in the negative, the beginning of the Puranos really already includes the entire Hemshech. Now, the whole idea of the fast days is to bring about the transformation of these days into days of Sasim v'Simcha by correcting our Maisa. So the Tzoyim HaAsiri, the Tzoyim of Asar b'Tevis, is really about correcting the beginnings, because it's about beginning. So making a samach to the oimani choima, so you know in the Tzidkas HaTzadik, in the first piece in the Tzidkas HaTzadik, he says, Reishis knisas ha'odom la'avodas Hashem, the beginning of a person's entry into the service of the Rebbeinu Shalom Tzorich is b'chipozoin. K'moishe matzinu b'Pesach Mitzrayim shohoyonechol b'chipozoin. That was the beginning. It had to be done hastily, with zrizus. V'loy Pesach Doros. Pesach Doros is not done b'chipozoin. Mepnei shehahaskola l'natek atzmoi mikol taivus olam hazeh shu mekusher b'hem. Tzorich lishmer harega. You have to seize the moment. Shemis'orer bo rotzen Hashem v'lach boiz al oisoi rega l'maher lotzeis mehem ula yuchal v'achar kach shuv yelech b'mesinus. Once you seize the moment, you can start going b'mesinus la'at kedin pesach doirois. So Mamela, I'm saying that the Tzayim HaAsiri, which is about correcting the beginnings, is something that can't be postponed, because the beginning, you have to seize the moment. You can't push it off to another day. That's why the Tzayim HaAsiri is dafke boy bayoim be'etzem hayoim hazeh. You do it now. It's now or never. Okay.